Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining. Sunil here. Can you hear me? Please give confirmations on the chat box. Thank you. Thank you very much for your responses. Okay. Thank you. Let's stop the chat. Let us stop the chat. What's our plan for today? As mentioned, our plan for today is to understand a new service called as IAM, stands for Identity and Access Management. Okay. So in this session, you'll understand, look at this statement, look at the agenda. We'll understand the importance of this particular service. Very important, frequently asked question, what's the difference between root user and IAM user? How to create a user, how to attach policies. All these terms we should be familiar. We'll understand about what do you mean by creating a user, what do you mean by policy, creating a group, attaching policies to the group, add users to the group. All these things will be familiar in today's session. So today we'll be discussing about identity and access management. Okay. So as usual, before starting the session, let's have an interaction. This time with Mohit Sharma.
Hello.
Hi Mohit. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, sir. Actually, I was searching on LinkedIn related to AWS solution architecture, and I found some job titles, but in the description, it was all about DevOps. That even if you are going for architecture role, you need to know about Jenkins and Ansible and other DevOps tools. So, is it necessary to do DevOps?
Probably the client may be looking for a multi-skilled resource where he needs some exposure towards DevOps also. Technically, if they need only core AWS resources, that does not mention DevOps tools. If they have mentioned DevOps tools also, that means they are looking for a multi-skilled resource. Okay. There are some openings, Mohit Sharma, definitely, which are only core AWS. Okay. You'll also look at that.
Okay, sir.
Rajesh Gulla. You are allowed to unmute, Rajesh.
Hello.
Yes, Rajesh.
Hi, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we use Python in this AWS?
Do you want to use it?
Yeah.
In what kind of scenarios you want to use it?
I know a little bit the Python programming.
Okay.
How can we use AWS?
There's no much scope for Python. Okay, you can use scripting, Python scripting, but specific to a different service, not for a solutions architect.
Okay, sure. Okay.
Okay. Nagarjuna ready. Your question, Nagarjuna.
Hello. Hi, sir.
Yes. Good evening.
I do not have any questions. Sorry, sir. I mistakenly.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Surendra Verma.
Hello, hi, Sunil.
Yeah, Surendra. I'm fine. How are you doing?
Yes, fine, Sunil.
Yep.
Very good. You are teaching very good and very understandable way.
Thank you.
Very clear for every section.
Thank you, Surendra. Thank you for your feedback. Any technical questions?
Actually, one technical question. Can we use in Java? Means in Java, one of my friend is using a tool with a AWS plugin. He's developing one server, and he asked me to create one load balancer. But their EC2 instance is not created in AWS. He used AWS plugin and he logged like us only. But there instance I went and saw there. But in EC2 instance is not created. Their server is not created.
Okay.
But he is using still his web page is accessing. How is it possible?
Check with them what technology what he is using. Okay, what are the APIs which they are using? Okay, you need to check. You need to have the complete understanding. Are the servers are on-premises servers, or I think they are on-premises servers, Surendra. Okay, you have to have complete information about that infrastructure.
Okay. Just he used coding in front end. He used JavaScript and back end HTML.
Okay, that's fine. You have to check. Ask them how was the where exactly the servers are residing. I think they're residing on on-premises infrastructure. Okay.
Okay.
One more final call before getting into the today's session. Sheetal.
Yeah, hi, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, it's nice to talk to you,
Thank
and
you.
you are teaching well. Actually, I am just wondering about as of now, my profile is Oracle DBA. So, can we do parallelly? Mean
You
to
want to
take,
you want to switch from Oracle DBA.
yeah, I mean, I need to think about AWS and Oracle database. So both can I do or only
You have
AWS?
to if you want to switch to database technology, then you have to learn services related to database. Okay, there are some services related to database like RDS. I hope you have heard about this RDS and DynamoDB.
Yes.
You need to focus on those services because those services are related to your core experience.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
Sheetal?
So what is the profile we need to search for? Mean after this AWS, mean the Oracle AWS,
No.
RDS.
Solutions architect only. The profile so role remains the same. Solutions architect, but you'll be helping solutions with respect to database domain, Sheetal.
Okay.
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 So
Sure.
you're also called as solutions architect, but specific to domain as database. Okay.
Okay. Sure.
Because your
Thank you.
core industry is from the database industry. Okay.
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 Sure.
Sheetal. Let's move on. Let's move on. Understanding the concept of IAM stands for Identity and Access Management. So look at one more slide. I have one more PPT. Let's try to get some information about this one more slide called as Identity and Access Management. Look at this terminologies. Try to understand this theory. Anyways, we will be practically experiencing this theory. But try to understand this theory. Identity and Access Management allows you to manage users, groups, level of access to AWS services. Using identity and access management, you can provide different levels of access to AWS services. Okay, fine. IAM gives you centralized control of your AWS account. Shared access to your AWS account is possible using this service called as IAM. You can provide granular permissions. IAM helps you to include features of identity federation that end users, AWS resources can also log in using LinkedIn, Facebook if required. Using IAM, you can increase one more level of security called as multi-factor authentication. You can set password rotation policies. You can define password policies in identity and access management. Okay. In this identity and access management, you have to be comfortable with 4 terminologies. By the time we complete this service IAM, you have to be comfortable with 4 terminologies. You should know about what you mean by user. You should understand about the concept of group and what is the importance of group. What do you mean by policy? Till now, we have never experienced a term called policy. Today, we'll be learning about the concept of policies, and we should be also comfortable with these roles. Learning these 4 terminologies is nothing but identity and access management. Okay, so this is something related to roles. So let's more get detailed into identity and access management. Let's make it simplified. Let's make the concept of identity and access management as usual. Let's make the concept as simplified. Okay. 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 We all know how to log into AWS. Right from day one, we are doing it. We have created a new AWS account, isn't it? And right from day one, we are logging into AWS. Let's learn how can we log into AWS. The URL, you all know it. It's aws.amazon.com. Nothing new. We have done it plenty times. This is how we enter the username and we enter the password and we log in. In this login page, please observe there are 2 types of users. In this page, please observe there are 2 types of users, root users and IAM users. I hope some of you already have observed that. Okay. Understand there are 2 types of users in AWS, root user and IAM user. And we are not disturbing this. By default, every day what we are doing, we are logging in with our email address and logging with password. That means we are logging in as a root user. Right from day one, when we learned about AWS, we are logging in as which user? Root user. The default user selected is root user. We are not disturbing that. We'll enter the email address. I'm entering the login password. And this is how we are logging in. We all know that the first page called as AWS Management Console. Every day we are logging in as a root user. What is the concept of root user? Root user will have full access to AWS account. My dear friends, we have logged in as root user. When we learned about EC2, we are logging in as root user. Next, we have learned about S3, we are logging in as a root user. Every day we are logging in as root user. Root user is a high-level user. This root user have full access to AWS services. How many services AWS provides? How many services AWS provides? Look at the services. There are close to 200 services, isn't it? You can see a long list of services. Root user will have access to all the services. He can select any service and you can start learning it and you can start getting into practicals. Root user is a high level user. It's something like an administrator. The root user will have full access to AWS account. He can select any service. He can select EC2. He can select S3. He can select any service and start working with that particular service. Root user is a high level user. Root user is a high level user. Now, let's say you got a job in AWS. Let's say Netflix wants. Netflix is a client who has infrastructure on AWS. ESPN Star is one infrastructure on AWS. BBC runs on AWS. Thousands of clients runs on AWS. Let's say a company has recruited a group of 10 employees. Okay, let's say client wants an organization, something like Netflix, to manage their AWS infrastructure. They have recruited some 10 resources. So 10 resources have joined the in-house AWS team. Do you think every user will have root user credentials so that every employee can log into the AWS and then log in with the root user? Not at all. First point you need to keep in mind that root user is a high level user. Once you get a job as an AWS engineer or AWS architect or whatever AWS associate, infrastructure support, whatever it is, don't think that you will be provided a root user details. If the organization provides you root user details, you can do anything. You can misuse the account. You can also change the debit card. You can change the credit card. You can check the bill. You can pay the bill. Whatever you want, you can do it. Root user is a high level user, no matter how big the client is, but the client will have only one root account. Netflix pays $1,000 million per month, but still they have only one account. That is called as a root account. Root account is a high level account. Root account can do anything. He has access to all the services. He can check the bill. He can pay the bill. So when Netflix recruits a group of 10 people, 10 AWS engineers, do you think all the 10 people will have root account details? No. Not at all. Let's say I got a job in AWS Solutions Architect. I'll be not providing root user details. If I'm not providing root user details, what details I provided? I'll be providing IAM user. IAM user is nothing but a child user. Two levels of users: root user, IAM user. IAM user. IAM users are nothing but the child users. The high level user is a root user. Okay, nobody will have the root access credentials except the owner of the organization. The client will have the root account details. It is very, very confidential. We should not share the root account details. No client will share the root account details to their employees also. When an employee gets into the AWS team, he will not be provided root user details. In that case, what details he will be provided? He will be provided IAM user details. Okay, IAM user is nothing but child user. One root user can have 10 IAM users, can have 100 IAM users also. That's not a problem. Okay, so there are two types of users. Let's experience one more time. Let's log out of this. Sign in one more time. As you can see in the sign in page, you have two types of users as mentioned, root user and IAM user. Till now, we are neglecting IAM user because we do not know about IAM. This is the first time we are learning about identity and access management user. Whenever you create a new AWS account, we all have created a new AWS account on day one, isn't it? The free account for a period of 12 months. By default, you're all created a root account. Every day we are logging in as a root account. That's the reason you're able to check the bill. You're able to make the payment. But in an organization, you will be never provided a root account details. You will be provided a child user. Child user is nothing but an IAM user. Clear? So like every day we'll be logging in using IAM users. Clear about this? I hope I'm very clear in giving you the explanation about root user and IAM user. Any question? Yes, Vin. Your question, please.
Yes, sir. My question is, can you hear me fine?
Yes.
Yeah. Like in Microsoft 365 and Azure, you can have many global administrators. So I believe root is also like a global administrator for the
You are
portal.
right. You are right.
So similarly, like you mentioned, root is the owner. So owner is only a one person. So in Azure,
We can have equivalent other users which are equivalent to root privileges. Okay. We can also do that. Okay.
Oh, okay. So I can create maybe
one more
a group,
user with the name
like
something like Win. Okay. And which has equivalent capabilities of root user.
Okay.
Okay. So root user will be always busy, isn't it? I mean,
so as a practitioner, I can create a global administrator group under the users and assign them people under that
I'll
group.
show you how can we do that.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Clear,
Yeah.
Win? Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Retrieval. Hello. Yes.
Sir, can you hear my voice?
Yes. Very clear.
Sir, good evening, sir.
How are you doing?
Fine, sir.
Clear about identity and access management.
Yes,
of
sir.
now.
Yes, sir. I understood, sir. Sir, I have doubt in previous class. Day 3, I created the instance Linux machine
Day
EC2.
3.
Sir?
You're talking about day 3 session.
Yes, sir. In that,
Any question related to identity and access management?
No,
Specific
sir.
to
No,
this
sir.
context.
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
I tried 100 times, but it's not coming, sir. That's why I asked.
Look at the recording. Okay. AWS is same for you and me, is it? Okay. Somewhere you're doing a mistake.
Yes, sir.
Check the
That's
recording.
only.
Send the screenshot to support@logicalabstract.com, whatever with the error explanation. Whenever
Yes.
I'm free, I'll check back. I'll get back to you.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. So IAM user, we had understanding it's something like a child user. Let's go ahead and create a new IAM user. How can we create an IAM user? Okay. So let's say I want to create an IAM user with the name something like Ravi is the username, and then the password which I want to give for this particular user is something like Ravi@123. Not only that, and I want this particular Ravi user to only access EC2 service. My dear friends, this is very important. The new user, obviously the Ravi user, I don't want Ravi to have full access to AWS account. I don't want Ravi to have full access to AWS account. I don't want Ravi to access all the 200 services. I want to restrict Ravi user. I have recruited Ravi user and I want to keep that Ravi user in the EC2 team. Very big clients will have teams according to services. There are organizations who recruit thousands of employees to manage the AWS infrastructure. Those thousands, the hundreds of employees to manage the AWS infrastructure. In the hundreds of employees, there'll be a team of EC2 team, there will be S3 team, there will be IAM team, there's a VPC team, security team. They have different teams. Let's say Ravi is a new employee recruited in an organization to manage in-house infrastructure, and I want Ravi to handle only specific to one service called EC2. So when Ravi logs in, he should have only access to one service called EC2. So the new things what we are learning now is, how can we create a new user? Obviously, the new user is nothing but an IAM user. We learn how can we create a new user and how can we restrict this particular user to only one service. Obviously, we don't want Ravi, the user, to log in and to access all the 200 services. We want this particular user to specific to only one service. Okay, so let's learn how can we create a new user and how can we restrict this particular user to only one service called as EC2. So let's do that now. So to do that, obviously we have to log in as a root user. That's a high level user. Let's log in. I've logged in as a root user. To create child users are nothing but IAM users. Go to services. Under security, identity, and compliance, you'll find a service called as IAM. Stands for identity and access management. This is how the IAM dashboard looks like. Let's specific to the point. Let's learn how can we create a user. Can you see in the dashboard we have users? Right now, how many users? 0 users. There are no IAM users for this root account. There is no IAM users. Let's go ahead and create a new user. Creating a user is as simple as that. You have provided add user. Click on add user, or what all details we need to provide. Obviously, the username and the login password. And not only just creating a user, we want this particular new user to only use one service, right? EC2. So how can we do that? Let's learn. Add user. Username. Okay, Ravi. AWS credential type. AWS access type. How do you want Ravi to access AWS account? How do you want Ravi to access AWS account? This is an interesting question again. Please look at this. This is interesting again. In how many ways you can connect to AWS cloud and work with services? In how many ways you can connect to AWS cloud and work with all the services? In how many ways you can connect to AWS and work with all the services like EC2 S3? As of now, we know only one way, that is called as browser access. How are we logging in? How did we practice the EC2 service? How did we practice S3 service, my dear friends? We are logging in using browser, isn't it? The URL is aws.amazon.com. Okay, we are entering by using the email address. We are providing the login password. Using those credentials, we will be logging into AWS cloud. Once we log into AWS cloud, the first page is AWS management console. We select the required service and start using it. That's the only way what we know. But in fact, there's one more way to connect to AWS account. There's one more way to connect to AWS cloud and work with all the services. There's one more approach called as, yes, you are right. Most of you know it, CLI. Most of you have heard about this. So in the interview, if then anybody asks you, how do you connect to it? In how many ways we can connect to AWS account and how the AWS cloud and how can we work with all the services? Not one way. You could do it by using 2 ways. We can log into AWS. We can connect to AWS cloud using the browser that is called as console access. This access is called as console access. Right from day one, we are connecting to AWS cloud using the console access. This is called as CLI. There's a second way you can connect using, there's one more approach using the command line. You're right, friends. Using command line, you can connect to AWS account. You can create S3 buckets. You can create EC2 bucket, EC2 machines, whatever you want. You can do it by using commands. That approach is called as the command line interface. So now you have the answer for the interview question. In how many ways we can connect to AWS cloud and work with AWS services? There are 2 ways. One is console access, the other one is command line access. Console access is by using the browser. We log in using user email address and password. The other way is called as command line access. So soon we'll be experiencing the second approach in the command. In couple of days, we'll be experiencing, probably tomorrow we'll be experiencing the second approach called as command line. Got it? Yes. Now, when you're creating a Ravi, do you want Ravi to access using the console access? Do you want Ravi to access using command line access? Obviously, you have to mention it because you are the root user. You have full access. You can provide whatever permission you want. I want Ravi to connect using both the ways. He should able to access using console access. He should able to access using command line. Okay, I want to provide them both the access. I don't want password to be auto generated. I am defining the password. The password for the Ravi user is Ravi at 123. Do you want the password to reset? We don't need to password to reset. And go ahead, click on next. Next is permissions. What permissions you want to give it to Ravi user? We are creating a new user. You have provided a username, you have provided password, and you also clearly mentioned that Ravi should able to access both the ways that is called as console access. The other one is command line access. We have provided both the approaches. And Ravi should have restricted to which service, only EC2 service. That's called as permissions. That's next step. That is next step. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4. Right now we are in step one. Step one, we provide the username, login, password. Click on next. Attach policies directly. Don't worry about add users to the group. Don't worry, we'll see, because we have never experienced the concept of group, we'll be seeing soon. Copy permissions from the existing user. I don't want to copy permissions for the existing user. I want to attach policies. Policies are nothing but permissions. Remember, in identity and access management, whenever you come across a term called policy, policy is nothing but permission. Ravi should have access to only one service called as EC2. So attach existing policies. Policies are predefined. So there are a lot of policies predefined. So I am attaching a policy called EC2 full access. What is the policy name I am attaching? I'll copy paste it for your reference. And policy name attaching is AWS EC2 full access. This is a predefined policy. I hope I'm very clear. This is the policy I'm attaching for this particular Ravi user. Click on next. Do you want to provide any tax additional information? Not required. Just review the details. Did we attach policy? I have not attached it. Select the checkbox, click on next. Review the details. Yes, so here's the user and this is the policy we have attached to the user. Review the details. Perfect. Go ahead and create a user. Successfully create a user. Don't worry about this. Click on close. We are done with creating a user. How many users you have created? Only one user I have created. What is the name of the user? Ravi user. You have successfully created. Clear? Now tell me, is it difficult to create an IAM user? How many IAM users we are having? Only one user. Tell me, is it difficult to create an IAM user? Not at all. It's pretty simple. Can I create one more user? Okay, let's do that. Let's create one more user. Let's say one more user. 1 minute, please. It's an important call. We are done. So it's pretty simple how to create a user. Let's create one more user. I want to create a user with the name John. Okay, so the password which I want to provide is John at the rate 123. For him, I want to have only S3 access. This is what I want to do it. One minute, please. So within no time, we'll be creating one more user. I want to create one more user. The username is John. The password is John at the rate 123. And I want to provide S3 full access. Ravi is having EC2 full access and I'm providing S3 full access to John. So this can be done in no time. Add user. John, he's a username. I want him to access both the approaches. It's not an auto-generated password, custom password. We already have defined the password as John at 123. Verify the password. I don't want him to change any password. Click on next. This is permissions. What permissions you want to attach for this new user, John? Obviously search for S3 full access. Every service is having full access permission. So I am providing S3 full access. Next. Next, review the details. This is John. Fine. This is the policy we are attaching to John and create users. That's it. Done. Close. So this is how we have to create user and provide granular permissions. I hope you're understanding the PowerPoint slide now. Using identity and access management, look at this slide now. You'll understand. Using identity and access management allows you to manage users and their level of access to AWS services. Yes, I have provided level of access, not having full access. Ravi is having access to only one service and John is having access to one service. Next point. Let's experience how the IAM user logs in. Two users, right? Ravi and John are the users. How does the IAM user logs in? Okay, these IAM users, what we have created, John is one IAM user, Ravi is the one IAM user. These are the IAM users which you have created under root account, right? This is our root account. Root account will have a canonical ID, or it's called as an account ID. You can see here, this is a account ID. This is my account. This is the account ID. Account ID. Every root account will have an account ID. This is the account ID. To be simple. Agree? This Ravi and John are under this particular account ID. So how does Ravi logs in? How does John logs in? Let's experience. Let's log out of identity and access management. Let's sign in. This is the first time we are experiencing how exactly we will be logging in as an IAM user. If I'm selecting an IAM user, the moment you select an IAM user, it will ask for 12-digit account ID. This IAM user belongs to this particular account ID. We already have taken a note of it. You will be provided account ID, so you have to log in, enter the account ID under this particular account ID. Then the moment you provide account ID, it will ask for the IAM username and the IAM password. So let's say this is the username John, and the password is John at 123. Yes, sign. John is signing in like this. Where you will be logging in as an IAM user. You will never get a chance to log in as a root user when you're working for a client. Obviously, client never reveals you the root account details. You'll be only providing the IAM user. So remember, day one, you'll be providing the IAM user details using the IAM user. He will be signing in. I have logged in as signing in. Look at the dashboard, how it looks like. You can see the user, it is something like username at root account. The moment you're getting a symbol called at the rate username at some account ID, you have to understand that John is an IAM user. John is an IAM user, and John is not having access to full AWS account. John is having access to only S3. So when he clicks on, as John looks on services, he can, obviously he's allowed to work with S3. When he clicks on S3, he's authorized to, he has not having no issues. You can go ahead and create a bucket. You can see S3 is authorized to do that, not a problem. But when he tries to work with EC2, when John tries to work with EC2, look at this. John is trying to connect to EC2. You are not authorized to perform this operation. You are not, have you seen this anytime? No. John is not authorized to perform this operations. He is not even, cannot. Error. Is not allowed to work with EC2. He may select, but he'll not be authorized to work with EC2. Similarly, when Ravi logs in, Ravi will have EC2 access, but he cannot create buckets. Let's experience Ravi account. Yes, sir. Please be seated. Yeah. 2 minutes, sir. Please don't mind. 2 minutes. Okay, sir. Please be seated. 1 minute, my dear friends. I have a guest at my location. back, sorry. So sign in. This time let's experience. My God. Let's experience Ravi account. Ravi belongs to same account ID. So this details will remain the same. Ravi. Sign in. Perfect. Ravi logged in, and you can see this is how the user credentials looks like. You can clearly see IAM user is Ravi, and then Ravi is having access to EC2. So no doubt he is authorized to manage EC2 machines. Not at all. You're able to look at the EC2 machine. When Ravi tries to create bucket, you're not authorized. I hope you have understood for the first time the importance of identity and access management. It provides a limited permissions to IAM users. It helps you to provide limited permissions to IAM users. Every organization will have, every organization who manages the infrastructure will be logged in as an IAM user, and he will be restricted to specific set of services. Never think that an IAM user will have access. Never think that any organization, any employee will have access to all the infrastructure. Okay. I hope I'm clear in explaining you the importance of identity and access management. And Diliraj B, what do you think? Is it clear? Okay.
Sorry, I was talking on mute.
Okay. Yes, Diliraj.
Yes,
Am I clear explaining you the importance of identity and access management?
Yes, Sunil, it's very clear. Regarding the IAM role.
Regarding, 1 minute, regarding?
Just a minute, I'm just checking. While creating the S3, right, you have mentioned one IAM role, right? May I know what's the purpose of IAM role?
Where did I mention?
Sorry?
I have mentioned username, I have mentioned password. You're talking about this one.
No. This is related to the buckets, S3 buckets.
Okay, cross-region replication. At that time we have discussed. Okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
That's for communication with respect to multiple regions. We'll be discussing soon. Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay, sure.
Any questions specific to this context? IAM.
This is clear, Sunil.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Veeresh Sagar.
Hello, Sunil. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Veeresh, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good, Sunil. Thanks for asking.
Thank you.
And I hope you're doing well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and it's a great initiative. Really appreciate it. And regarding this IAM, I mean, like as you mentioned, we can create this IAM users, right? So do we have a limit for that?
No restriction. You can create 100 users, 1,000 users. IAM is free. Number of users, there's no billing with respect to number of users. It's all about infrastructure. When you create, then the billing starts. IAM user that you have, there's no limitation.
Perfect.
Okay.
And one more thing, I mean, each time, do we need to provide this account ID for each user, or do we have any?
Account ID is common, right? So here, how many users we have created? Viresh, 2 users we have created. Both the users will have same account ID. This belongs to root account, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, like, if you want to restrict this account ID.
If you want to restrict this particular account ID, there's one more approach, Viresh. Let's experience the root account. I want to sign in using root. So let's go to IAM dashboard. You can see the users created.
Yes, sir. I see.
Let's select a specific user. Console sign-in link. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can copy this is a separate URL for the IAM user. I'm copying this URL just for your reference. I'm copying it, showing you this is the URL. This looks to be something different. Generally, for you to user, we only log in with aws.amazon.com. That's all, isn't it, Viresh? So this is a console sign-in. So where the URL itself will have that root account ID. So you can avoid that entering the root account ID automatically gets populated, but there's no way to hide the root account ID. Root account ID is visible. That's not a problem. Okay.
Oh, sir.
Yeah, Viresh. So
Okay.
when let's say once I join an organization to manage the client's infrastructure, so I will be provided my root account ID, IAM user, and the corresponding password. Using these three credentials, I'll be logging in. Okay, and I'll be accessing the specific services which are allocated to me. Clear?
Yeah, clear, Sunil. Thank you.
Thank you, Viresh. One more final call before moving on to next. Radhakrishnan. Monisha Radhakrishnan.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Already you have said me we can sign in command and in console access and CDI access.
In two ways, we can connect to AWS account. One is console access, the other one is command line access.
Can we check with the CLI access?
You want to
command
experience
line?
how can Ravi or
John,
a particular John connects to AWS and work with services using command
yeah.
line?
Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
that's for tomorrow's class.
Sure. Okay.
We are
Thank
coming up CLI exclusive session for command line.
Sure. Thank
Okay.
you.
Anything more,
Thank you for
Manisha? How is the
explaining.
learning experience?
Yeah, it's very clear, and thank you for explaining in detail every topics also.
Thank you.
Because we are starting point of you
Yeah.
know, it's very clear and able to understand everything
Thank you
easily.
very much. Thank you for your
Thank you.
feedback.
Thank you for yeah.
Okay. So most important term is policy. The term policy refers to permission. So this is, for example, of a policy. AWS, Amazon EC2 full access is a policy name. Similarly, S3 full access is a policy name. These are predefined policies. AWS is having predefined policies. So when you attach policies, that particular user will be restricted to that particular service. That's how we can create it. Okay. If you don't want a user, IAM user, you can delete it, no doubt. Hands-on is important. When you learn, it will be, when you're hearing, it will be very good. But once you do hands-on, that's make it effective. You can retain it. I'm sure you'll forget when you don't do hands-on. That's the reason participants listen a couple of times. Let's say you don't want these IAM users. As a root user, you are having full access, isn't it? So right now you can see you have two users. Okay, you can see the users dashboard. Whenever you don't want a user, you can select it. If you want, you can change the policies at any point of time. Okay, you can select a policy, Ravi. It's pretty simple. Spend some time. So Ravi is having a AWS EC2 full access. If you want additional policy, you can add it. Okay, so let's say we want to attach policies. This time I'm writing it as, let's say, full access. Like this, one user can have multiple policies. Okay, add permissions. Now the user has been updated. You can see that particular Ravi user is now having, Ravi is the name of the user. You can see the dashboard is having two policies. Okay, you can have multiple policies at any point of time. As a root user, you can add the policies, you can edit the policies. Okay, if you want to delete a user, you can do that. I have a delete option here, which helps you to delete a user. Yes, delete. Done. I think the user deletion is done. We are done with deleting a user. Now you can see in the user's dashboard, there's only one user. I want to also delete this particular user. Done. Like this, you can create, if let's say organization, if an employee leaves it, that particular user will be deleted. Okay, so that's how this is how to manage the IAM users. The next thing I want to discuss is about how to create group and attach policies to the group. Right now we have attached policies to the user. Instead of attaching policies to the user, you can attach policies to the group. You can add users to the group, but this topic I want to keep it in tomorrow's session. I have a visitor at my location, so I need to end up the session today a little bit early. So spend some time, look at more videos, look at documents about more about identity and access management. My dear friends, one thing you keep in mind, AWS is easy, same as DevOps. Thank you. And we are starting a DevOps batch tomorrow at evening 4 o'clock. I hope you got the information. If you are interested, you can know what is DevOps. If you are, you can share it to your friends who wants to learn DevOps. Okay. Thank you for your time, and catch you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.